Dr. Elias Kane worked late into the quiet night of the research colony, the hum of machinery filling the room like a soft, steady heartbeat. He had always been fascinated by alien life, by the way different species experienced the universe. But today, his attention was drawn to someone very specific, a young Xerian girl named Leora. She was unlike any alien he had encountered before. Her skin shimmered faintly under the artificial lights, like a star reflected in water, but her eyes, large, luminescent, and haunting, were clouded with darkness. She was blind. Elias had met Leora a few days ago. She had been brought to the colony after her home planet experienced a medical accident that left her without sight. Most of the humans around her felt pity or fear, unsure how to communicate with her. But Elias was different. He saw potential, curiosity, and intelligence behind those dark eyes. He had spent weeks studying Xerian neural patterns and anatomy. The humans at the colony warned him to be careful. Tampering with alien biology could bring trouble. But Elias had never been one to follow rules blindly when a chance to help someone presented itself. Tonight, he had a plan. On his workbench lay a complex device, a prototype he had named the Neuro-Optic Visor. It was a combination of human optical sensors and neural adapters designed to interface with alien brains. In theory, it could allow a blind Xerian to perceive light and shapes. In practice, it was untested, delicate, and potentially dangerous. But Elias had faith. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice gentle as he looked at Leora sitting quietly on a metal stool. She nodded, her head tilting slightly in curiosity. There was no fear in her, only trust. That trust made Elias's chest tighten. Humans were fragile creatures, he reminded himself, often quick to abandon hope. But here was a being from another world who believed in him without question. He carefully fitted the visor over her head, adjusting tiny sensors to align with the neural receptors just behind her temples. The device hummed softly as it activated, lights flickering across its surface like the birth of a new star. Elias held his breath as he watched for any sign of reaction. At first, nothing happened. Leora's face remained blank, her hands resting in her lap. Elias's heart sank. He had spent weeks preparing for this moment, calculating neural pathways, adjusting signal frequencies, and simulating the visor's responses. And yet, nothing. Then, slowly, her fingers twitched. She reached forward, her hand grazing the edge of the table, stopping just short of tipping over a small cup of data chips. "I see," she whispered, voice trembling. Elias's eyes widened. She had not just perceived light. She had recognized the objects around her. He leaned closer, careful not to startle her. "Can you see shapes?" Leora tilted her head, and for a moment her dark eyes seemed to hold a spark of something human. Excitement, awe, and understanding all mixed together. "Shapes and movement," she said. "The lights, they dance." Elias allowed himself a small smile. "Good. Very good. That's the visor working. You're seeing the world in a way no Xerian ever has." Leora laughed softly, a sound like wind chimes. "It's beautiful." But the joy was short-lived. Elias knew that such technology could not stay hidden. The colony had rules, interstellar regulations, and strict protocols. The moment the authorities discovered what he had created, trouble would follow. He had to be careful. As he helped Leora remove the visor, a small alarm blinked on his console, a signal he had not expected. He frowned, scanning the data. Someone had accessed the colony's surveillance network, bypassing his security filters. A chill ran down his spine. He knew instantly who it might be. The Xerian authorities. "They're watching," he muttered, more to himself than to Leora. Her hand rested on his arm, warm and trusting. "Will they take it?" she asked, voice small but steady. Elias shook his head, brushing a lock of hair from her forehead. "Not if I can help it. Humans are clever." We can hide, we can protect, and we can adapt. We'll find a way. That night, Elias stayed in his lab long after the rest of the colony had gone to sleep. He studied the visor, making tiny adjustments to the neural interface, ensuring it would respond more naturally to Leora's brain patterns. He mapped potential escape routes, hid backup prototypes in secret compartments, and ran simulations in case someone came for them. His mind raced with calculations, strategies, and contingencies, but his heart stayed calm, anchored by the knowledge that he was doing the right thing. Days passed, and Leora's progress was remarkable. With each session, she gained more control over her new sense. She could detect depth, identify objects, and even perceive subtle movements that humans could barely notice. Her laughter filled the lab, echoing off metal walls, bringing warmth and life into a place that often felt cold and sterile. Elias often marveled at her adaptability. "You learn faster than anyone I've ever met," he said one evening, adjusting the visor settings. "It's because you helped me," she replied, eyes shining. "Humans, you try so hard." He smiled, feeling a rare swell of pride. Humans did try. They stumbled, they failed, but when it mattered most, they could rise to challenges others deemed impossible. It was a small truth, but one he carried in his chest like a shield. But even as hope blossomed in the lab, shadows grew outside. He noticed subtle signs, a security drone hovering longer than usual, communication logs flickering, messages deleted and rewritten. Someone was observing him, waiting for the right moment. One evening, while testing a new update to the visor, Elias felt it, a sudden pressure in the back of his mind, a sensation like someone else was analyzing every movement. He froze, hand hovering over the visor. Leora noticed immediately. "Elias, someone is here," she said, voice calm but urgent. Her senses, sharpened by her new ability, picked up patterns he could not. She had learned to trust her perception more than any machine. He nodded, quickly deactivating the visor and hiding it under a false panel in the wall. "Stay here," he whispered. "I'll check." Moving silently through the lab, Elias accessed the colony's restricted monitors. His heart raced as he scanned the feeds. 4 figures had landed near the perimeter. Xerian soldiers, elite and precise, moving with purpose. They were looking for him, looking for the visor. Elias's mind raced. He had no weapons, no backup team, but he did have human ingenuity. He quickly devised a plan, a series of false signals, misleading drone paths, and automated doors that could slow the soldiers' progress. Every detail mattered. Every second counted. He returned to the lab, trying to appear calm. Leora was seated quietly, watching him with a mixture of concern and trust. "What do we do?" she asked. "We survive," he said simply. "We think. We use our heads. That's what humans do best." For hours he worked. He rerouted power lines, activated emergency lights, and set up decoy devices. The 4 soldiers moved closer, their precision almost robotic, but Elias was ready. He could not let them find the visor, not yet, not until Leora was fully ready, until they could prove that human innovation could coexist with alien life. By the time the first soldier entered the colony, Elias was hidden, watching through surveillance feeds. The soldier moved with deadly efficiency, scanning each corridor and room. But Elias had predicted every step. The soldier triggered a false alarm, chasing shadows and blinking lights, while the real lab remained untouched. Hours passed, and the threat receded, at least for the moment. Elias knew it was only temporary. The soldiers would not give up easily, and the higher authorities would soon be involved. But for now, he had achieved something extraordinary. Leora could see, and together they had outsmarted one of the most formidable forces in the galaxy. He returned to the lab, lifting the visor from its hiding place. Leora reached for it eagerly. "Can we try again?" she asked. Elias smiled, his eyes tired but bright. Yes, we'll try again, and we'll keep trying until you can see the world completely. Humans don't give up easily, Leora. That's our strength. She placed the visor on her head once more. The lights flickered and danced across her vision. Shapes became clearer, colors sharper. She laughed, a sound full of wonder and joy, and for a moment, the dark reality of the outside world faded away. Outside, the colony lay in quiet tension, unaware that a human and a young alien were rewriting what it meant to see, to hope, and to survive. And somewhere beyond the perimeter, 4 soldiers were preparing, unaware that they were about to face not just a child and a scientist, but the cleverness, courage, and indomitable spirit of humanity. Elias watched Leora, a quiet determination settling over him. They were safe for now, but the challenge had only begun. And he knew one thing for certain. Humans did not back down. Humans did not give up. Humans found a way. And tonight that human ingenuity had just begun to shine. The morning sun glimmered faintly through the artificial dome of the research colony, casting soft light across the sleek metal walkways and humming machinery. Dr. Elias Kane moved quickly, carefully checking his lab and the hidden compartment where he had secured the neuro-optic visor. He could not afford even a single mistake. Outside, the air was calm, almost deceptively peaceful, but his instincts told him danger was near. He had sensed the shadow in the security feeds the night before, and today the truth became undeniable. 4 Xerian soldiers had landed near the colony's perimeter. Elite operatives, highly trained, their mission precise: locate the human who dared to create technology that interfaced with alien neurobiology and confiscate the device. Elias knew they would not negotiate. The only option was strategy. Inside the lab, Leora sat quietly, her fingers tracing the edge of the workbench. Her eyes, clouded with darkness but alive with the new light of perception, followed Elias's every move. She had learned quickly, adapting to the visor at an incredible pace. Her newfound vision gave her an advantage, one Elias planned to use. "Do you know who they are?" he asked quietly, kneeling beside her. Leora's head tilted, as if listening beyond human senses. "The ones who came last night, the Watchers," she replied softly. "I can feel them. They are precise. They know where to go." Elias nodded. "Yes, they are soldiers, elite ones. They will not stop until they find the visor."
"But we will not let them. Not while you are learning."
"Not while it is still new." He moved quickly, activating a series of automated locks, rerouting power, and preparing decoy signals. Each step was calculated to delay the soldiers, to confuse them, and to buy time. Humans excelled at improvisation, he reminded himself. They could think, adapt, and outsmart even the most precise enemies. A sudden vibration through the floor warned him that the soldiers had begun moving inside the colony. Elias ducked behind a storage container as he watched through surveillance monitors. The 4 figures moved in perfect formation, their armor gleaming faintly under the colony's lights. Each step was deliberate, calculated, as if they were an extension of a single mind. "They are here," Leora whispered, placing her hand lightly on his arm. Her enhanced perception detected the precise rhythm of their movements. 3 in the north corridor, 1 in the south. Elias's mind raced. Good. Then we use that. Follow me, and stay quiet. Remember, we are not just hiding, we are thinking. He led her through hidden maintenance tunnels, using narrow passageways few humans or aliens ever noticed. Sensors he had installed earlier allowed them to monitor the soldiers' positions without being detected. Each corner was a potential trap, each doorway a chance to mislead the intruders. The first encounter came suddenly. A soldier appeared at the end of a corridor, scanning with a device that detected heat signatures. Elias pressed Leora against the wall, holding his breath. The soldier's gaze passed over them without pause, He moved on, unaware of the hidden path behind a panel Elias had created. That was close, Leora murmured, her voice calm but alert. Elias nodded, whispering, "Too close. But that is why we are ready. They think their strength and technology make them unstoppable. We will show them human creativity is stronger." They moved deeper into the colony, reaching a junction where paths split in multiple directions. Elias paused, calculating the best route to continue the decoys. "We divide their focus. I will lead 2 down the north tunnel. You lead the other 2? Leora's lips pressed together. "Me? Alone?" "You are not alone," he said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You have the visor. You can see in ways they cannot."
They will underestimate you. That is your advantage.
Trusting him, she nodded. He handed her a small device, a simple laser pointer, modified to emit signals that could interfere with Xerian sensors. "Use this only if you need to create a distraction. But we want to confuse, not harm." The plan moved in motion. Elias slipped down the north tunnel while Leora remained in the junction, carefully guiding the soldiers with signals, noises, and subtle manipulations of the environment. The soldiers, precise as they were, began to show slight signs of frustration. Their pathfinding algorithms were being challenged, their instincts tested. Human unpredictability was a weapon they could not anticipate. Meanwhile, Elias encountered another obstacle. The colony's maintenance stores, designed to be slow and automated, were not responding as expected. His fingers flew over the console, rerouting power, overriding protocols. A soldier rounded the corner, catching a glimpse of his silhouette. Elias ducked behind a metal crate, holding his breath. The soldier passed, scanning the area with unwavering precision. Elias exhaled slowly, silently praising the combination of nerves and experience that had brought him this far. Back at the junction, Leora acted with quiet brilliance. She sent the modified laser signals down one tunnel, drawing 2 soldiers into a chase. They followed the light, misinterpreting it as a tracker for the visor. She then adjusted another signal, leading the remaining soldiers into a false corridor lined with harmless machinery. Every movement was calculated, her mind working in ways humans might never have imagined. Yet it was human ingenuity that had taught her these strategies. Elias regrouped with Leora in a secondary lab, a room he had prepared as a temporary safe zone. The visor was hidden in a concealed compartment, and they both took a moment to catch their breath. "You are amazing," Elias said, watching her carefully. "I knew humans could adapt. I did not expect you to be this capable." Leora smiled faintly. "I am learning from the best," she replied. "But they will not give up. They will keep coming." He nodded. "Yes, and we will be ready. Humans always find a way." The tension outside continued to mount. The soldiers were methodical, combing corridors, using devices to detect anomalies. Yet each time they thought they were closing in, Elias had anticipated their moves, set traps, and created distractions. A few times small alarms triggered, drawing the soldiers away from the true path. Hours passed, each moment tense and exhausting. Elias worked tirelessly, monitoring their movements, preparing new strategies, and teaching Leora to adapt quickly. The young Xerian's ability to perceive depth and movement with the visor allowed her to anticipate the soldiers' actions before they even entered a corridor. She became not just a passive participant, but an active strategist in their defense. Eventually, the soldiers began to converge on the lab, sensing that the human and the device were still in the colony. Elias knew that a direct confrontation was inevitable. He and Leora prepared for it, arranging obstacles, automated lights, and decoy devices. Every detail mattered. Human creativity would be tested against elite precision. The first soldier entered the lab with careful steps, scanning with a precise device that could detect hidden compartments. Elias and Leora remained hidden, watching his movements on a small monitor. He paused, sensing something off, and adjusted his scanning device. Leora's hand twitched slightly, sending a subtle signal to trigger a distraction. A small panel opened across the room, releasing a harmless cloud of colored mist. The soldier reacted instantly, confused by the unexpected movement. He moved closer to investigate, but Elias had already prepared a second diversion, a series of automated lights and noises that suggested movement in another part of the lab. The soldier, forced to choose, followed the false trail. Minutes later, another soldier entered from a different direction. Leora sent signals guiding him into a narrow maintenance shaft, where he became temporarily trapped by the human-engineered layout. The remaining two soldiers attempted to flank them, but each was met with careful distractions and decoy signals. Through it all, Elias marveled at the combination of human ingenuity and the girl's new abilities. "We are more than just strength in numbers," he whispered. "We are creativity, adaptability, and courage. That is why humans endure." Hours passed, the soldiers gradually retreating, frustrated by the unpredictable defenses. Elias knew they would return, that higher authorities would eventually intervene. But for now, the immediate danger had been managed. The visor was safe, and Leora's vision continued to improve. In the quiet aftermath, Elias and Leora sat together in the lab, exhaustion evident in their postures, but determination burning in their eyes. "We did it," Leora said softly. "We survived." Elias shook his head slightly, a small smile on his face. "Not just survived, we outsmarted them. And that, Leora, is what makes humans remarkable. We find a way, even when the odds are against us." Leora looked up at him, her new vision allowing her to perceive the subtle expressions on his face. "And we will keep finding ways. Together." Elias nodded. The moment was brief, but powerful. A reminder of why he had risked everything. Humans could adapt, think, and create solutions where others only saw obstacles. The young Xerian's trust in him was proof that hope, intelligence, and courage could bridge worlds. As the sun set over the colony dome, casting a warm glow across the metal floors, Elias prepared for the days ahead. The 4 elite soldiers would return, perhaps with reinforcements, but he was ready. He and Leora had proven that even in the face of elite opposition, human ingenuity and determination could prevail. And tonight they would rest, knowing that the fight was far from over, but that they were not alone, and they were not powerless. Somewhere beyond the perimeter, the soldiers regrouped, analyzing their failure and planning their next move. Elias knew that the challenge would escalate, but for now he allowed himself a moment of pride and relief. Humans were clever, resourceful, and courageous, and he intended to show the galaxy exactly what that meant. The air in the colony hung heavy with tension. Every corridor seemed sharper, every shadow deeper, as Dr. Kradoff, Elias Kane, and Leora prepared for the confrontation they both knew was inevitable. The 4 elite Xerian soldiers had retreated the day before, frustrated and calculating, but their return was only a matter of time. Elias could feel it in the subtle vibrations of the floor, in the distant hum of landing crafts outside the dome. "Do you think they'll come back?" Leora asked, her voice calm but cautious. Her fingers traced the edge of the workbench, now cluttered with tools and spare parts of the neuro-optic visor. Elias shook his head slightly. "They won't just come back. They'll come smarter, faster, and more determined. But that's okay. Humans have faced impossible odds before, and we've always found a way." She looked up at him, her newly sharpened eyes reflecting both curiosity and trust. "I can help. I can see things now they can't. Maybe we can make them understand, or at least slow them down." Elias nodded. "Exactly. It's not just about hiding anymore. It's about outthinking them, and that's what humans do best." He spent the next few hours preparing the lab and the surrounding maintenance corridors. Sensors were repositioned to detect movement, lights programmed to flash in misleading patterns, and decoy signals rerouted to confuse any scanning equipment. Every detail mattered. He could not underestimate the soldiers' precision, but he could exploit their predictability. As they worked, Leora tried on the visor, practicing her newfound vision. She could now perceive depth, color, and subtle motion in ways that even Elias found remarkable. "I can see their shapes before they move," she said quietly. "I can feel their intent." Elias smiled, pride swelling in his chest. "Then you'll be our advantage. We are not just humans versus soldiers. We are humans and Xerian intelligence together." Hours later, the first sign of trouble appeared. A low vibration ran through the floor, subtle but unmistakable. The landing pads outside the dome had activated. Through the reinforced observation window, Elias could see 4 figures descending from a sleek Xerian shuttle, their armor glinting with an almost metallic sheen. They moved as one unit, silent and precise, scanning the colony as if reading its structure like a map. "They're here," Leora whispered, standing close to Elias. Her eyes, enhanced by the visor, could already detect slight movements in their gait, subtle adjustments in their posture. 4, like before, but this time they're more organized. Careful. Elias nodded. "Then we'll need to be even smarter. Remember, we have 2 advantages they don't expect: unpredictability and creativity." The soldiers began moving through the colony corridors. Their movements were deliberate, each step calculated to minimize risk and maximize efficiency. Elias guided Leora through hidden tunnels, using the labyrinthine structure of the colony to their advantage. Every junction and maintenance shaft had been planned as a potential escape or diversion. Suddenly, a soldier rounded a corner, entering the corridor where Elias had just been. He froze, scanning the walls. But Elias was already in the shadows, hidden behind a bulkhead. The soldier's gaze swept the area, precise and methodical, but the decoy signals triggered a false reading, drawing him down a different passage. Elias exhaled silently, knowing that this small victory bought them precious time. "Good," he whispered to Leora. "Every step they take into confusion is a step we control." Minutes later, another soldier entered the lab area, scanning for signs of the visor. Leora sent a subtle signal using the modified laser pointer, activating a series of lights that flashed across the ceiling. The soldier paused, confused by the sudden movement and color changes. He moved cautiously toward the source, but it led him directly into a narrow maintenance shaft where he became temporarily trapped. Elias and Leora watched silently from their vantage point.
"You're getting better at this," Elias said. "Your senses are sharper than mine now."
"We can anticipate them," she smiled faintly. "It feels natural, like I've always been able to do this. The visor, it's more than vision. It's understanding." The remaining 2 soldiers advanced cautiously, aware now that their precision was being tested. Elias activated another decoy, a small mechanical arm hidden in a corridor that waved innocuous objects in their path. They hesitated, unsure if it was a threat or a distraction. "Humans think in ways machines can't predict," Elias whispered, "and that is exactly what we need them to forget." The first trapped soldier finally freed himself from the maintenance shaft, but by then the 2 remaining soldiers had been misled by the series of diversions. Elias led Leora through a hidden access hatch, deep into a secondary lab he had prepared as a backup safe zone. The neuro-optic visor was safely hidden, and the 2 of them had a moment to breathe. But Elias knew it was temporary. The soldiers would regroup, and reinforcements could arrive at any moment. They needed more than clever tricks. They needed to convince the soldiers that the visor was not a threat, but a tool for understanding. "We need to show them why this matters," Elias said quietly. "Not just for us, but for all species. The visor. It's a bridge. It can teach them something they have never seen before." Leora nodded. "I can do it. I can show them." They'll listen. If they see. Elias hesitated, knowing the risks. Confronting elite soldiers directly could be dangerous, but he also knew that human ingenuity often thrived in moments of audacity. Then we'll do it together, he said. Moments later, the soldiers breached the secondary lab. Their precision was unmatched, but Elias and Leora were ready. He stepped forward, hands raised, signaling no threat. Leora followed, placing the visor on her head and activating its neural interface. The soldiers froze, analyzing her movements. Elias spoke calmly, clearly, and with confidence. This device is not a weapon. It is not a threat. It allows understanding, insight, into perception, into life. She can see, yes, but more importantly, she can connect. She can learn. And she can teach. Leora's eyes glowed faintly as she extended her hands, showing the subtle patterns of light and color she now perceived. Look, she said softly. I can see shapes, movement, depth, even emotions. This is not just vision. It is understanding. Humans created this, not to harm, but to help, to connect, to learn. The soldiers paused, their training clashing with what they were witnessing. They were taught precision, control, and adherence to protocol. Yet here was an alien child showing abilities enhanced by human ingenuity that defied their expectations. Elias continued, You are elite. You are precise. But there are things your training does not prepare you for. Creativity, adaptation, empathy. These are human strengths. We survive not because we are stronger or faster, but because we think, adapt, and create. And now, we can share that with you. Leora stepped forward, her newfound perception allowing her to read the subtle shifts in the soldier's posture. You see how it works. You feel what it shows. Humans are not just fragile creatures. We find solutions, even in impossible situations. That is our gift. The room was silent. The soldiers, trained to enforce protocol and confiscate unauthorized devices, hesitated. They did not speak. They did not move. For the first time, Elias saw doubt flicker in their precise, disciplined movements. Human ingenuity and moral reasoning were forces they had not anticipated. One soldier finally spoke, his voice measured and cautious. You are taking risks with alien life. Protocol is clear. Unauthorized technology must be confiscated. Elias smiled, calm but unwavering. And yet what you see here is not harm. It is growth. Connection. Progress. Humans do not just follow orders blindly. We assess, adapt, and find a way forward. The visor proves that, not just for Leora, but for everyone who chooses to see differently. The soldiers exchanged brief, silent glances. They had never encountered resistance like this. Resistance rooted not in weapons or force, but in intelligence, creativity, and empathy. Leora's demonstration and Elias's reasoning forced them to reconsider their mission. Minutes passed. The soldiers finally stepped back, lowering their scanning devices. We will report, one said quietly, his tone uncertain. But know this, higher authorities will intervene if you continue. Elias nodded, knowing that the confrontation was only a temporary victory. We will proceed responsibly, he said. But never forget, humans find a way. Always? The soldiers left, their precision replaced by caution, their confidence shaken. Elias turned to Leora, who had removed the visor and now looked at him with a quiet pride. You see? He said. Humans don't just survive. We adapt, we create, and we inspire. That is what makes us remarkable. Leora smiled, her perception still heightened by the visor. And together, we can do more than survive. We can teach. We can connect. Elias nodded. The colony was quiet once more, But he knew that the challenge was far from over. Higher authorities would watch, and the soldiers could return with reinforcements. But for now, they had proven something extraordinary, that human intelligence, creativity, and moral courage could overcome even the most precise and relentless opposition. As night fell over the colony, Elias and Leora prepared for the days ahead. They had survived, yes, but they had also shown that humans were more than strength or numbers. They were thinkers, innovators, and bridge builders. And in a universe filled with uncertainty and danger, that was a power no one could underestimate. The sun rose slowly over the research colony, painting the metallic walls and walkways with soft golden light. Inside the lab, Dr. Elias Kane moved quietly, checking the neuro-optic visor and Leora's progress. After the confrontation with the elite soldiers, the colony had returned to a fragile calm, but Elias knew the galaxy's attention had been drawn to them. The higher authorities were aware now, and the risk had not disappeared. But Elias was not afraid. Humans thrived under pressure. Their strength lay not in brute force, but in thought, creativity, and the courage to act when others hesitated. And Leora, the young Xerian girl, was proof of what humans could achieve when guided by empathy and intelligence. Leora sat at a small console, her fingers moving with precision as she tested new settings on the visor. Her eyes glowed faintly, catching subtle flashes of light that Elias had programmed to enhance her perception. She had learned quickly, and now her vision extended beyond basic shapes. She could detect depth, movement, and even subtle changes in the environment around her. "I think I'm ready for more," she said, voice steady, filled with quiet determination. "I can try exploring further. I want to see the world outside this lab." Elias smiled. "Good. That's exactly what we need. But we will go slowly, step by step. Humans always plan ahead, even when we take risks." Together, they prepared for Leora's first full exploration of the colony with her new ability. Elias had mapped out every corridor, every maintenance shaft, and every hidden passage. He had installed decoy signals to ensure no one could follow them unnoticed. They moved through the labyrinthine corridors carefully, Leora's new perception guiding them past obstacles and hazards. As they walked, Elias watched her closely. He marveled at how quickly she had adapted to the visor, how her mind had learned to interpret light and motion in ways no human or alien had ever done before. It was more than vision. It was understanding. And that understanding would change everything. Outside the lab, the colony was alive with activity. Humans and aliens moved through the walkways, unaware of the drama that had unfolded in the hidden corridors. Elias kept a careful watch, ensuring that no one would stumble upon them. Leora's presence was a delicate secret, one that needed protection until she was fully ready. "Can you see the sunlight?" Elias asked, smiling as he gestured toward the dome. Leora tilted her head, a small smile forming on her lips. "Yes, it's warm." Not just light, but something alive.
Elias nodded. Exactly. Humans understand that life is not just survival.
We notice, we feel, we adapt. And now, you're part of that understanding too. They moved toward the observation deck, a large platform with a clear view of the colony's surroundings. Leora paused, her hand hovering in the air as she interpreted the shapes and colors before her. She turned her head, looking at Elias. "It's beautiful. I've never known beauty like this." "Then you see," Elias said softly, "that what we create can change the world. One person, one idea, one human mind can bridge gaps that seemed impossible." For a moment they stood in silence, sharing the simple joy of discovery. But Elias knew that peace was fleeting. The elite soldiers might return, and higher authorities could intervene. They needed a plan, not just for survival, but for lasting progress. Back in the lab, Elias began recording the Visor's functions, documenting how Leora's perception worked with the neural interface. He intended to show the data to both humans and Xerian authorities, hoping to prove that the technology was safe and beneficial. It was a bold step. It would require trust, reasoning, and the same human ingenuity that had guided them so far. Leora watched him work, her eyes bright with understanding. "Do you think they'll listen?" she asked quietly. Elias paused, considering. They might. Humans can be cautious, even stubborn. Aliens can be rigid too. But if we show them results, if we demonstrate what this technology can do responsibly, they will have to consider it. And that is how humans create change, not with force, but with ideas and courage. Over the next few days, Elias and Leora continued their work. She explored more areas of the colony, learning to navigate spaces using her enhanced vision. Every step was a lesson, every observation a discovery. She began interacting with other aliens in small, controlled ways, her perception allowing her to communicate non-verbally through gestures and patterns of movement. The impact was immediate. Even the skeptical Xerian staff began to notice the changes. Leora's presence was calm, inspiring, and remarkably effective. Her vision allowed her to assist in small tasks, identifying equipment issues, guiding other young aliens, and demonstrating the possibilities of collaboration between humans and Xerians. Elias used this opportunity to introduce the idea of a demonstration to the higher authorities. "We don't hide anymore," he said. "We show them. We prove that humans can create technology that bridges worlds without harm. And that is what HFY is all about. Our ingenuity, our adaptability, our courage." Leora nodded. "I'm ready," she said. "They will see. And maybe they'll understand." When the day of the demonstration arrived, the higher authorities entered the colony. The 4 elite soldiers were among them, their expressions careful, disciplined, and wary. Elias led them to the observation deck, where Leora stood confidently, the visor glowing softly. "Watch," Elias said. "This is what humans can do when we combine intelligence, empathy, and creativity." "Leora, show them." Leora moved gracefully, navigating the platform with her enhanced perception. She indicated objects, patterns, and subtle movements around the colony, explaining in gestures what she observed. The authorities, initially skeptical, began to see the possibilities. The visor was not a weapon. It was a bridge. It allowed understanding across species, demonstrated human ingenuity, and expanded perception in ways that technology alone had never achieved. One of the elite soldiers stepped forward, voice measured. "This is remarkable. But you risk interference with Xerian biology. Protocol exists for a reason." Elias nodded. "Yes, I understand protocol. But humans also understand progress. And progress requires courage, reasoning, and responsibility. We do not seek to harm. We seek to understand and connect. That is what this device does. And that is what humans always strive for: solutions, not destruction." The higher authorities exchanged quiet conversation. Their rigid rules were challenged by evidence, by reason, and by the clear potential of the visor. They had come expecting a human to be reckless and dangerous. Instead, they found careful, intelligent work, guided by empathy. Leora turned to them, demonstrating her abilities with gestures and light patterns. "This is understanding," she said. "Humans taught me. Humans created this. And humans find ways to solve problems, not just survive. We create hope." The demonstration ended with a silence that felt almost sacred. The authorities had seen what they came to suppress. They had witnessed human ingenuity, courage, and moral reasoning in action. The soldiers, too, stepped back, acknowledging that this mission was no longer about confiscation, but about observation and learning. Elias exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of relief settle over him. "Humans endure," he said quietly to Leora. "We adapt, we create, and we inspire. That is our strength." Leora smiled, a gentle light in her eyes. "And we can teach others too. But humans and Xerians together." Over the following weeks, the Visor's technology was gradually accepted under strict supervision. Leora continued to explore, to learn, and to guide others in ways previously unimaginable. The colony began to change, slowly adopting ideas of collaboration, understanding, and innovation across species. Elias's reputation grew, not as a reckless inventor, but as a human who demonstrated the power of intelligence, morality, and courage. He became a symbol of what humans could achieve when they combined skill with empathy. One quiet evening, Elias and Leora returned to the observation deck. The sun set beyond the colony dome, casting warm light across the metallic structures and distant alien landscapes. "You've changed the colony," Elias said, "and maybe even changed some minds." Leora nodded, her eyes catching the fading light. "We've shown them what humans can do. Not just survive, but create, understand, and connect. That is why humans are remarkable." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder, smiling.
"And this is only the beginning."
"Humans will always find a way, and will continue to show the galaxy that ingenuity, courage, and empathy are our greatest strengths." For a long moment they stood together, watching the world outside the dome. The stars began to appear, faint points of light against the darkening sky. Somewhere beyond the colony, distant planets spun in silence. And in the quiet, there was hope. Human ingenuity had won, not through force, but through creativity, reason, and moral courage. And as Leora looked out across the colony, seeing the world with eyes that were both alien and human, she understood something profound. The future was not defined by rules or fear, but by the courage to try, the intelligence to think, and the heart to care. Elias watched her, knowing that this was the true power of humanity. They could adapt, create, and inspire. They could survive, yes, but more importantly, they could thrive. They could change worlds, not just for themselves, but for every being willing to learn, to see, and to hope. And tonight, as the stars shimmered above, the world seemed full of possibility. Humans had created a bridge. A child from another world could see, and one human had proven once again that ingenuity, courage, and empathy could light the path through darkness. The colony would never be the same again, and neither would the galaxy. The colony had changed in ways few could have imagined. Dr. Elias Kane walked through the wide corridors with Leora by his side, feeling the subtle pulse of life around them. Humans and aliens moved together with cautious curiosity, their interactions guided by the lessons Leora and Elias had demonstrated. The neuro-optic visor had opened more than her vision. It had opened minds. The Xerian authorities had allowed limited observation of the visor's capabilities under controlled conditions. But Elias knew that real understanding came not from rules or reports, but from experience, from living alongside others, and seeing the world with open eyes. Leora was proof of that truth. She had become a bridge not only between species, but between understanding and possibility. Elias watched her as she guided a small group of Xerian children through a practice exercise with the visor. They learned to perceive motion, depth, and light patterns under her careful instruction. Her confidence radiated, a mix of joy and determination. She had learned so quickly that even the most cautious humans in the colony began to marvel at her abilities. "You're doing better than I ever imagined," Elias said softly, leaning against a console. Leora glanced at him, a smile lighting her features. "I am learning because you taught me how to see and how to think. Humans do more than survive, Elias. You create, you adapt. You inspire. I can feel it in everything around me. He nodded, feeling a rare warmth in his chest. Humans did indeed have that power to adapt, to innovate, and to inspire. It was not strength of arms or technology alone, but the courage to act, the intelligence to reason, and the empathy to care. That combination had saved them before, and it would continue to guide them. A sudden alert echoed through the colony. Sensors detected an unknown vessel approaching. Elias immediately signaled Leora to stay calm. "It's probably just a routine patrol," he said, though the hint of tension sharpened his senses. "But stay ready. We've handled worse before." The vessel descended slowly onto the colony's landing pad, and a small party disembarked. At first, Elias thought it might be reinforcements for the elite soldiers they had faced before, but the figures that emerged were different. They were scientists and mediators, Xerians sent not to enforce, but to observe, to learn, and to assess the results of the Visor under controlled conditions. Leora's eyes glowed faintly as she observed the newcomers. "They are curious, not hostile," she noted. "They want to understand." Elias allowed himself a small smile. "Then, let's show them what humans can do when we combine intelligence with responsibility." He led the newcomers to the lab, where Leora prepared a demonstration. The Visor was ready, and she moved with confidence, guiding them through a series of exercises that showcased her abilities. She interpreted the movement of objects, detected subtle environmental changes, and even demonstrated basic patterns of emotional perception through color and light variations. The Xerian observers watched in astonishment. Their understanding of human ingenuity, patience, and creativity grew with every demonstration. One scientist stepped forward, speaking carefully. "Your methods, they are unlike any we have seen. Humans approach learning and adaptation with unpredictability, yet with precision and thought."
It is remarkable.
Elias nodded. "That is what makes humans strong. We adapt, improvise, and find solutions even in situations that seem impossible, and we do it responsibly. That is why we created the Visor. Not for advantage, but for understanding." The scientists exchanged glances, their skepticism fading. They began to ask questions, curious not only about the technology, but about the human mind that had created it. Elias answered carefully, demonstrating the principles behind the Visor, the safety mechanisms, and the potential applications for both humans and aliens. Leora assisted, explaining through gestures and simple words how the Visor enhanced perception and understanding. Her clarity and poise impressed even the most disciplined Xerian observers. "This is not just vision," she said. "It is connection. Humans think, adapt, and create in ways that open possibilities, and we can share that with others." Over the next few days, the colony became a place of exchange and collaboration. Humans and Xerians worked side by side, testing and improving the Visor's design. They explored new applications for the technology, from medical rehabilitation to educational tools, and even for environmental analysis in harsh planetary conditions. Elias observed all of this with quiet pride. The neurooptic Visor had begun as a simple attempt to help a single blind child, but it had grown into a symbol of human ingenuity and empathy. It was a testament to the idea that humans did not rely on force alone. They used intelligence, creativity, and moral courage to solve problems, even when the odds seemed impossible. One evening, Elias and Leora stood on the observation deck, looking out at the vast horizon beyond the colony. The twin suns of the planet were setting, casting long shadows and illuminating the distant mountains. The colony below seemed peaceful, almost serene, yet the challenges of the galaxy remained. "You've changed things here," Elias said softly, speaking more to himself than to Leora. "Not just for humans, or for you, but for everyone who sees this world differently now." Leora nodded, her gaze sweeping across the colony. "Humans do more than survive," she said. "You create, adapt, and inspire. That is why others will follow. That is why we can change the galaxy together. Elias smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. And this is only the beginning. Humans will continue to find solutions, to explore, to connect. The galaxy may test us, but we have learned something important. Our greatest strength is our mind, our courage, and our willingness to care for others. The following weeks were filled with progress. The Visor technology was refined, with new generations of devices being designed to suit multiple species. Elias and Leora worked tirelessly, guiding researchers, mediating collaborations, and ensuring that the technology remained safe, effective, and accessible. The colony itself began to change. Where humans and Xerians had once maintained separate routines and spaces, they now shared knowledge, meals, and tasks. The atmosphere shifted from cautious tolerance to curiosity and mutual respect. It was subtle, but it was real. And Elias knew it was because humans had shown a new way forward, not through dominance, but through ingenuity, reasoning, and empathy. One afternoon, the 4 elite soldiers returned. This time, they came not as enforcers, but as cautious allies, observing the positive results of human-led innovation. Elias and Leora greeted them calmly. The soldiers' disciplined eyes scanned the lab, noting the progress and the careful protocols in place. "You have done what we thought impossible," one said, his voice measured. "We expected risk and chaos. Instead, we see progress and understanding. Humans, you have shown something we did not anticipate." Elias nodded. "That is what humans do. We adapt, we create, and we inspire. And now you see that our methods are not reckless, but deliberate and responsible." The soldiers remained silent for a moment, then one stepped forward. "Perhaps our rules need reconsideration. Your work demonstrates that intelligence and courage can change outcomes more than force alone." Elias allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. That is the essence of HFY. Humans do not just exist. We think, we create, we inspire, and we always find a way to make things better. As the elite soldiers left, not as adversaries but as observers, Elias turned to Leora. "Do you see what we have done?" he asked quietly. Leora smiled. "Yes. We have shown that humans are remarkable, not because of power or weapons, but because of thought, courage, and empathy. That is why we can change the world." The sun set fully now, leaving a sky of deep purples and blues dotted with stars. Elias and Leora watched in silence, reflecting on the journey they had shared. A blind alien girl now saw humans had proven their ingenuity, and the colony had transformed into a place of collaboration and hope. Elias spoke softly, almost to himself. "The galaxy will always challenge us, but humans will always respond. We will think, we will adapt, we will innovate. That is our strength, and we will continue to show the universe what we can do." Leora rested a hand lightly on his arm. "And together we will keep creating bridges between worlds, between minds, between hearts. That is why humans are extraordinary." The colony remained quiet under the twin moons, but inside, the spirit of discovery and courage burned bright. Humans had proven their ability to adapt, to inspire, and to innovate. They had faced elite soldiers, interstellar scrutiny, and the uncertainty of alien technology, and had triumphed through intelligence, morality, and creativity. Elias and Leora stood on the observation deck one last time that evening, looking out at the galaxy beyond. It was vast, uncertain, and full of challenges. But they had learned a truth that could never be taken away. Humans did not just survive. Humans created, adapted, inspired, and changed worlds. And now they had begun to leave a mark not only on their colony, but on the understanding of the galaxy itself. The stars twinkled like scattered gems across the sky. distant worlds waiting to be explored. And in that quiet, infinite expanse, one human and one alien girl stood together, ready to meet whatever came next with ingenuity, courage, and hope. The story of a human who dared to help a blind alien girl had become more than a tale of survival. It had become a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity, a bridge between worlds, and a beacon of possibility. And that beacon would shine, quietly but brilliantly, across the stars for all to see.